No. There are 6 economic corridors. There is China-Pakistan economic corridor. There is China-Mongolia-Russia economic corridor. There is China-Bangladesh-India-Myanmar economic corridor. There is China-Eurasia economic corridor and China-Central Asia economic corridor. So there are 6 economic corridors which would be part of that broader vision which is called Belt Road Initiative. And it is not only the road connectivity, there are also then marine routes. So for example, China, when it uses the ports in Africa, when it uses ports in Gwadar, when it uses port in Sri Lanka, when it uses port in Myanmar, when it and of course, in order to break that isolation, one of the best diplomacy that China could use was
is the Belt Road.
Is the Belt Road, and it would also help China in getting the best use of some of the financial institutions that it co-founded with the other emerging countries like
India,
like Asia Infrastructure Development Bank and other. So Chinese firms, they would get credit from Asia Infrastructure Development Bank, for example, Chinese Exim Bank, many other sources, and they would be coming and they would be investing in these countries. So this is the broader architecture which CPEC is one of the component.
Is the pilot project, as they call it.
You can say it's a pilot project, but it is one of the projects which is a win-win situation for both China and the country it's being implemented. And the reason it's a win-win situation, before Gwadar gets operational and before the route Gwadar-Kashgar road gets operational, the current distance in nautical miles from Gulf Persian ports to Chinese port is almost 13,000 kilometers.
South China Sea.
Nautical mile from Malacca and from South China. Then from Beijing or from Hong Kong, it would take another 5,000, 4,000 kilometers if the things are to be shipped in the western part of China, Xinjiang for example. Okay. So it would be around 17,000 kilometers, including nautical mile plus terrestrial route, that the commodities have to cover currently. And then there is a risk of what the analyst called Malacca dilemma. In case of China, if anything goes wrong in Malacca Strait,
Americans are doing
if anything goes wrong,
pivot Asia.
Yeah, if anything goes wrong in Malacca Strait, so Chinese this shipment would be in extreme trouble. So Gwadar provides an opportunity. Gwadar and Kashgar is less than 2,500 kilometers. So from nearest Persian port, be it Dubai, be it Qatar, be it Muscat, whatever. So it's straight to Gwadar and then Gwadar to terrestrial shipment. So it's a win-win situation for China. In case of Pakistan, it's a win situation because Pakistan would get chance for infrastructure development. So there is, if we have to explain CPEC in layperson language so far, the plans which are in public, so it is, and it is the early harvesting program, which is in the tenure of this government, some of the projects that would take place. So it is about foreign direct investment, it's about infrastructure development, it's about energy, and it's about special and economic zones. So these are the 4 major components of current CPEC. Of course, CPEC is a long-term plan, it's about 15-20 years plan. So there are various other things which are embedded in it, which include tourism, which include agriculture, which include entertainment and many other part, because it is being perceived as economic corridor, not the road connectivity.
The road connectivity, how far this is true? They say that this, when it comes to the land and the industrial zone, they call it a belt. When it comes to marine, they call it's a marine road. So the belt is land where they are going to develop industrial zones and all economic activity will take agriculture.
That is not belt. As I told you, explained in detail, belt is all this congregation of all the roads.
All the roads.
So network of all the roads, all the economic corridor, that is one belt.
That is one belt.
And then the roads are the economic corridors.
All right.
So
this is not marine roads only.
This is not marine road, it's a terrestrial road as well as the marine road.
One belt. Right.
Now, if we are talking of some of the components of CPEC, of course, this is where
government will discuss it in the second half. Here we take a break, and after the break we will discuss and try to analyze what good it has to bring for Pakistan and globally, because Chinese says it's a win-win-win. Win for the China, winning for the West, obviously not competition, and it's a winning situation for the global poverty as well. And on top of that, they say if that fails, then there is a war. So please stay with us, we'll discuss this.
It's diverse.
It's original.
It's SDTV.
Welcome back. So what are the major components? As they talk, they say energy and the manufacturing and commerce, and what are the major components of this program for Pakistan?
Well, if we look at, of course, when we're talking of CPEC, it's about Pakistan. So in case of CPEC, if you look at it as the things they are now, almost 75% of CPEC projects which have been signed, MOUs and projects which have been signed so far, they relate to energy. So it's either energy generation, it's some tiny part of it's about the transmission. Then we have rail and road network. Then we have fiber optic. And of course later on there was these special economic zones as well. Now it's quite interesting that in case of, while we keep on talking of road, which is Gwadar to Kashgar. So road is only less than 15% of CPEC is road. Then you have railways and optic fiber and Gwadar port development, which are the new agreements which were signed just 2 days ago. So the 75% which is of energy, again 72% of the energy would be generated out of this proposed CPEC project would be a coal-based energy. 72%. Coal-based energy. The current government, they were lucky that last year the oil prices in the international market, they were very low, and so the generation crisis was not there. We observed in 2014. So now again oil prices, they are on the rise,
but very low still.
But they are on the rise if we compare it with the prices of last year.
They have doubled.
And the existing share of coal in Pakistan's energy mix is less than 1%.
Yeah.
It is 0.5%, 0.6%. Now the quickest solution to overcome this energy problem is to convert these generation plants from coal, from gas or from furnace oil to coal. So some of the turbines, either they are being converted as those were converted from furnace oil to gas and are being converted from gas to LNG, or they are being converted from furnace oil to coal, and some new turbines which would purely work on coal. Now there is again a win-win situation for China. So Pakistan would get, and this was the quickest method of producing electricity before next election. So if for example Sahiwal plant or one or two other plants, if they become operational, so at least federal government would be able to claim that they did bring some electricity in the grid, which the previous government couldn't. Now in case of China is trying to divert from coal-based electricity.
And they're selling off there.
One still needs to get more information whether we are getting the second hand plants which they are selling off, or the technology but the new plants, etc. So it is still not very clear. So but let's speak with good intention that they are not selling off their second hand plants, even if they are the first hand plants, but the technology that they were using, they have to phase out from coal and they would be entering into clean energy era as per their Paris declaration, the COP20
And their agreement. And this is.
yeah, so they would be shifting from coal and they would be shifting on some renewable energy sources.
And that is why Pakistan said that we have still not peaked.
Yeah,
And then first we will peak and then they will.
And then we will try to develop.
Do you think it would not be a very good experience? Because you will first will pollute and then clean.
But politically speaking, government can't wait
Yeah.
for few more years for hydropower.
And one thing more,
Plants
they're setting up a tariff. Do you think it can land us in a situation where the IPP situation and
would
capacity and all that?
It may land us in situation. Again, one of the myth about CPEC is that it would increase our debts.
Yeah.
Which
If the capacity payment has to give, obviously
which perhaps is not the case.
it's not the case.
It's not the case. So some of
It's private investment.
some of it is debt, but most of it is private investment.
Private investment.
But private investment at more difficult terms and conditions than the debt could have been. So if it was a sovereign debt between states, there is always chance to reschedule the debt. There is always a chance to swap debt for development projects. There is always chance for getting the markup waived off, etc., etc. So the states, they can do it at their end. But if it's a private investment,
It is default.
which is backed by sovereign guarantee by government of Pakistan, then the situation is slightly dicey and tricky. So currently what we have seen, that is some of the private investor that would be investing in hopes, which again it's not in public domain, so we still don't know that whether it is done or not.
But it is done in the in the lieu of public policy.
But of course one needs to see that what sort of safeguard mechanisms are there to avoid any situation that IPPs they have created for government of Pakistan most recently.
What about these special economic zones? What are they?
Well, special economic, there
I've heard they're building it River Indus.
well there are 9 special economic zones, and out of those 9, those special economic zones. Now here a question arises. It's not for the first time we are having special